And we have this room. And we got this room. And we have this room. Have this room. And we have this room. Who needs a bathtub? And this is where the magic happens. Welcome back to RC Pilot Hangar, and I'm here with Larry, and Larry's got quite a collection of airplanes, and we're going to actually look at a lot of his airplanes. And Larry, so how did you get started flying airplanes?
Well, there's a local hobby shop in a little town called Iowa City, Iowa, and the only hobby shop in town, and they had all kinds of things, and I started out flying hand gliders.
Okay.
You just you know, they were 5 cents or 10 cents or something like that, and I put it together. And I lived right next to a schoolyard, and Henry Saban School was there, and I just hop over the fence or go up the alley and through a gate, and I go out there and just fly my planes in the schoolyard.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, were you doing that for a long time before you got into any type of, where you actually fly the plane versus hand tossing?
Well, you know, probably when I was 8 or 9, my dad got me a James Walker Fire Baby with a 049, Wasp 049 on it, and we went out to one of the places, little probably park or something, to fly it, and he could get it around a circle about 2.5 times before he got too dizzy and fell down, and so, and, you know. And so this little 049, they make a lot of noise, yes. And I was only 8 years old, so he stretched out the lines, and I went to fly it, and it got slack, and the plane went right towards me, and I ran. So I give up on the control line planes at that point, and I just stuck to the rubber band models and the gliders and things like that. Yeah. I had some JetX 150s on planes that lost their propellers through time and being banged on the ground, and I put the little JetX motors on it and lit the fuse and flew that in a schoolyard too.
So then how did you actually progress into getting into remote flying? Is that something way later on?
Much later, and I moved to Dallas. I was actually living in Plano in the Spring Creek Mobile Home Park, and a neighbor had pulled in and with his mobile home, a new neighbor, and he was showing me a old Reed system and a Top Flight Torai airplane, and these were like push button things. Right. He'd push a button once or twice and make it go one way or the other, and then he took me out to North Lake and showed me where they flew, and man, once he showed me that
was it, huh? You got the bug.
I was bitten hard. I mean, really hard, and so I started building my first plane in '69.
Okay.
And I got some advice, and somebody said that was a little biplane, a SIG made it, and some guy said, well, that's not really a beginner's airplane. So I traded it for a 60 size motor and put that in the drawer, and it got me a Falcon 56. So that's what I started out with.
Wow! And you were doing the Reed at that point, or
no? At that time, in 1970, I was going down to Bernie's Hobby Shop in Oak Cliff, and I belonged to the Dallas North Club, and they were flying out North Lake, and anyway, I got me the Falcon and put a 35 on it, and I bought this new EK Products Champion radio, which is a radio that had gutless servos. All the electronics were in the receiver, and it was a little less expensive than the other radios, and that's what I started out with. It was full proportional, and a little red box and red servos in it.
Oh, wow, wow. And then moving on, what did you actually progress to? I know you've got quite a collection now, but back then, after you've gotten to this first, RC plane, what was your next?
Well, I graduated to an A-Ray, which is a Lou Anders kit, and the Aeromaster is the biplane, and a VK Navajo, which is a high-wing Cessna, and eventually to an Ugly Sticks.
Okay.
And so Ugly Sticks was a good one, and I like to fly a lot, and I built quite a few Ugly Sticks.
Okay, so Larry's also involved with boats. He's got a ton of boats that we're going to see here as well. So at the same time you were doing airplanes, where did you get into the boats?
Well, in around 1980, I was at a place called Blue Lake. It was a little pond off LBJ at Midway in the office complex, and had a rock quarry in it. And I was, I don't know, I was just down there one time, and some fellow that worked there, one of the offices, told me about this boat club. I think I had a boat that I had handmade out of balsa and put a motor in it. Huh. And was running in that pond. And he told me about this North Texas model shipwrights. And so I started to get into model boats at that point.
Wow.
And I was really interested in sailboats too. And so I scaled up a Lightning kit, which is normally about 19 inches to 39 inches, and built my first sailboat.
Wow.
So it was 39-inch sailboat.
So back then, was the club very big with the boat club that you started?
I was thinking there was around, almost 50 members in it.
Oh, wow, that was quite a big club.
Yeah, we had, they were meeting at the Pan Am building at the time, across down by Love Field. And we met there for a while. And then we eventually started meeting in Farmers Branch at the rec center there.
Okay.
And but we had a fairly good number of members in that club.
So in 1980, you were also still flying airplanes at that
Right.
point. So were you involved with the club then too, or?
Yeah. Well, when I just started out with the airplane club, I was with had the Dallas RC Club to start out with, and eventually started flying behind the Chrysler boat plant in Plano and joined the Richardson RC Club.
Oh,
so I was in the Richardson RC Club, and 1 year back in early 80s, I guess, I was the president of that club for a year.
I never knew that. Wow.
But so yeah, we flew back there behind that Chrysler boat plant, and then I think I joined there's another club that was running North Lake at the time. It wasn't the Dallas Club then, it was this other club. I forget the name of it now. And we were there for a few years until the property got sold.
Did you have very many planes back there in 1980?
Probably half a dozen.
Half a dozen.
Yeah.
We're going to find out how many planes and boats he has. So
yeah.
Coming up. And at the same time, you had several boats back then as well?
Not so much. I think I bought one here or there. Maybe 4 or 5 boats starting out. And it progressed from there. But yeah.
So what do you like better, boats, planes, both, or?
I like them both. There's a lot of similarities in how you relax. I mean, you find a sailplane, you get up there and you're gliding. You climb up to fairly high altitude, and then you glide around, and it's really pretty peaceful. And you can get the same feeling with a sailboat. You can sit down alongside the pond in the shade, and you can just sit back in your chair and you tack with the wind and open and close the sails and turn and tack and try and sail it in a straight line or from one point to the other and back. In the 1990s, I belonged to a club that sailed race sailboats out Grapevine Lake at Scott's Landing, and we did that for 2 or 3 years, and we just stand in the water out there and for about 3 hours and raced Star 45s and 36-600 class boats.
Wow.
So I did a little bit of that too.
So Larry is a really good builder. Most of his models are very detailed and they're super nice. Is it just something, your passion just to make it just perfect? I mean, when I'm looking at a lot of your models, I don't see any wrinkles. I mean, the thing is built beautifully.
Yeah, well, I used to work for Texas Instruments as a technical illustrator.
Now that's where that comes into play.
Yes, the detail in technical illustrating, a lot of times before we even had computers, they send me with a notepad and a ruler, and I go down to the site where there was a big piece of equipment. I'd measure and sketch out the whole equipment, come back and draw it on a drawing board.
Okay.
And then after they got approved, I'd do an ink drawing of it, and that was used to go into a handbook. The Photoshop would shoot it down, and then you put call outs on it, and if you have something that, depending on the level of maintenance, the whoever owned the equipment, the Army, whoever, and they could order parts based on the call outs of what it's
Okay.
Number 5 is a PC board or whatever.
And you drew all these? Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you did?
Yeah.
So that's where now, I never knew this, where all this detail comes from, just because that's what you used to do.
Yeah, I'd sit there and draw it in pencil, and I come back and ink it, make an ink drawing out of it.
Wow.
And then I got go to the camera shop, and they'd shoot it to fit the manual and however they want to use it. And different levels of maintenance require different kinds of illustrations.
So you've got such a large collection now of both airplanes and boats. Did this all happen like after you retired? You had to get...
No, I've been collecting them too long. I used to live in about a 1,700 square foot house, and I'm in a 4,000 now. So, as you can imagine, I've got the top floor. What can I say?
Where did you keep them before?
The garage, my hobby rooms, closets. Any place I had stuck a kid or something, it was in there.
Yeah. What's your? I know you have a lot of kits that you haven't built that you have collected. Do you have very old kits as well too that are kind of waiting to be built?
Yeah, I do have a few of those. I
have
sure
a few
do.
of those.
Yeah.
Wow, you haven't told me what they are. I'll have to.
Well, it's been a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret until they come out.
Right.
Great. So let's go forward. Now you fly. You still fly quite a bit. You still do a lot of boating, and you're still building a lot of planes that I see coming out quite a bit. So where do you see yourself going? Just larger? Just continue, or rotate them, or you're going to run out of room here pretty quick.
Yeah, the room is pretty well compressed at this point, and I've either got to start crashing them or give them away or sell some of them, because I'm sure not going to be building a lot more of them.
I don't
at this
see
point.
you crash very much.
Well,
so
yeah, once in a while I make a mistake and the wind catches me, but usually it's minor. You know. Once in a while there's a disaster, but that happens.
So what are you working on now? What airplanes you got kind of going now?
Well, actually working on a Hangar 9 Pitts, a 71-inch Pitts, and I'm going to put a 160 motor and a speed control in it, and it'll run probably a 12S.
Are you all electric, or
No, I got an old Super Buccaneer. It's about a 90-inch wingspan with a Weber 61 on it, two-stroke. I fly that at least once a year. And I've got overhead, there's a Lanzio bomber with a four-stroke 61 on it that I fly at least once a year.
Yeah.
And then I have a four-stroke 90 on a Senior Tailmaster on floats that I fly off the water occasionally.
Wow, so you do that as well.
So I've got it's a little sampling, less of the glow stuff now, but still a few. But everything else is electric.
Yeah, and they're large too. A lot of them are larger planes.
Yeah, I'm running a Hangar 9 quarter scale Cub and a quarter scale Tiger Moth and a clipped wing Tailorcraft, and I've got a Lazy Ace, all running 110 electrics in it with 2010 props, and running basically 8 cells on those. The Pitts will probably run 12 cells.
Yeah. And on boats, are you still building boats as well? I know you got a lot of scale boats as well, and sailboats.
Yeah, I've got, 14 sailboats. So you can't tell I like sailboats.
14 sailboats. Did you hear that?
And I still have 4 or 5 more to put together. So what can I say? I'm just a hobby addict, but better than other kinds of addicts. And anyway, I have a place to put them and a place to store them. But yeah.
And what are you currently working now on the boats?
Well, I just kind of finished working on a Chris Craft. It's about a 60-inch wood model, and it's running 90 brushless in it with a 90 brushless speed control, and running a 2-inch brass gas prop, and running a 4S brushless motor. 4S LiPo battery.
Yeah. I've talked with a few people now, and I hear, I'm going to keep building till I can't build anymore. I would assume that's going to be with you as well.
Yeah, and if I can't see anymore, if I can't move, then yeah, I guess I won't be building anymore. Until that time.
I don't see that happening, though. I see you building forever. Yeah. You're going to be with a plan in your hand.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, back at the old house, I was building in my lap. I had filled up all my workbenches. and when I started building on the living room table in the other room, that got some frowns, but it also got me a new house that's twice as big, so.
So I have to ask you, so for new people that are watching this channel, any suggestions for people to get into the hobby? Anything that you would say, hey, this is what you need to do?
Well, that's a pretty wide subject, and I guess a lot of people have different answers for that. Depends who you talk to. I recommend just buying an old Sig Senorita type airplane, and it's kind of a stick model on the fuselage, really lightweight, make a good electric. I'm flying one on floats. It's a terrific airplane. It's a good beginner. Otherwise, you can go and get, I guess, a Timbers one plane, or
yes, from E-flite.
From E-flite, the foam airplane, and they've got some of the magic, I might say, with it, what makes it easier to fly.
Right.
But what you really need is to have someone to be a mentor and help you, so that your first flight doesn't end up into a disaster, because there's nothing more disappointing than to spend money on something and see it all trashed out. So my advice is join a club, get someone to help you, and learn how to fly that way, and then you can branch out a little bit. And a lot of people can give you advice about different things to buy. It depends what your inclination is and how big your pocketbook is.
Yeah, yeah. So Larry's got a boat here that he has built, and it's got a lot of detail on it. And there's a lot of wood detail, and we've got a bunch of parts on here. Tell me a little bit about this boat.
Well, this is an all-wood runabout. The hull is a lapstrake hull, where you build a basically balsa wood hull and then cover it with mahogany, and then you fiberglass it, and then you fill that in with resin and sand it down. And the deck,
so is this layers of wood that I'm seeing here too?
Well, they're planks is what they are.
Wow.
They're planks, and then it's glassed over that to give it strength and keep it waterproof. The top of it is kind of just a typical light aircraft plywood. And then I've added mahogany to the front and rear part of the deck, and I made the doors open up.
Oh, sweet.
Where you have full access to the motor, speed control, lights, a battery box for the lights. It has lights on it, and you got your steering servo, and your battery mounts there, and your receivers here. So this has got kind of a magnet on here, so it kind of magnetically holds this closed.
So what kind of motor's on that? Is it something different that you would have than an airplane motor, or is it basically the same? It's just...
Well, in this one here, it's off an E-flite glider that didn't survive.
Oh, wow, so you're reusing parts.
Yeah,
wow.
So I reuse parts, and the brushless motors really work good in boats. You can use the old style transmitters, and the brushless motors don't cause any interference because there's no sparking of the brushes. On this boat here too, I've handmade the dash for it. It's laminated 2 different woods, and it's got brass bezels for the instrument panel.
Wow.
And I've handmade the windshield out of aluminum and hand bent. Kind of difficult. And I have some figures in it that I collected over the years to make my boats look real.
How did you make the windshield? Is that something you cut out by hand?
It's just aluminum tubing that I bend. That you have to bend different radiuses depending whether it's at this top part or the bottom part. The bottom is wider, and then you have to set it at an angle and then reinforce it. And then I polished it out, and so it looks like chrome.
Yeah, and you've got a windshield on there too, right?
Yeah, I attached the windshield to the outside of the frame.
Wow, look at that.
It's just acetate, real thin stuff that we'd use for windows on a RC plane. And And it used just a brass prop from the prop shop in England, and a commercial rudder that you can buy separately, put on it. And the lights were Stevens lights originally. I think you can buy them from Harbor Freight or someplace like that now. And then I've got some little bitty hinges that you used to buy at a dollhouse place, and got the little handles and everything on it. And so I use all kinds of parts to build these boats. And here's a imitation horn up here. And some of my boats have sound systems in them, fog horns, bells, fog horns, whatever.
So was this an original kit that you modified, or was this?
No, this was totally scratch built.
Amazing! Wow.
One of the original members from our club had originally hacked out the hull on it, and I finished filling it in and smoothing it out. Then I had some plans that kind of give me an idea for this style of hull, where to place the cockpit and all this, and I just kind of modified it to suit the size of the boat, and just scratch build everything, and it came out really nice.
Larry, I have to say, I think you're one of the best builders that I know. You've got some really detailed models here.
Well, I thank you. I just enjoy building, you know. I like to take something and have my vision to it. I can take something that somebody is literally throwing in the trash, and if it looked like it was solid built to some extent, I could take it and turn it into something beautiful and fly it, you know.
Yeah, fantastic.
Or float it, depends what it is. But yeah, it's just having that vision of what it could be, and having the desire to refresh it and put it back to life again in a new setting, you know, what my spin is on it. So that's what I like to do, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I'm just really creative.
So if you like this channel, please go ahead and hit the like button, the thumbs up, and leave a comment if you'd like. And we'll see you at the next interview or hangar or event. Thank you for watching. Take care.